AUSA, please welcome to Warriors Corner, Unleashing Drone Dominance, featuring Major General Claire Gill, U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence Commanding General, Brigadier General Travis McIntosh, 101st Airborne Division Deputy Commanding General, Brigadier General David Phillips, Program Executive Officer for Aviation, Colonel Scott Shaw, Maneuver Capabilities Development and Integration Director, and Command Sergeant Major David Garcia, 2nd Battalion, 13th Aviation Regiment.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to AUSA 2025. It's great to have everybody here at Warriors Corner. You just heard the introductions here. I'm seated with General Phillips, our PEO for Aviation. He'll talk a little bit about some marketplace and some of the acquisition things that we're doing. Some of you were here. General Travis McIntosh, the Deputy Commander of the 101st, he's going to talk about some of the innovative things that are happening at the Tactical Edge. I'll talk about some of the guidance that told us to do that and what they're doing there in their TIC brigades in the 101st Airborne Division. We've got Colonel Scott Shaw from the Maneuver Center seated, so a lot of nexus between what we're doing at the Aviation Center and the Maneuver Center. And Colonel Shaw is going to talk to you about like what soldiers want, what they need, and how we're training them at every level as they come through Fort Benning and enter into our maneuver branches. And then we've got a special guest in Sergeant Major David Garcia. He's the Sergeant Major of our training, our UAS training battalion out at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And you heard the chief allude to it a little bit up during the luncheon, but a lot of things are happening there in terms of convergence and what we're doing in terms of how we train future UAS operators. What you used to think of a 15 Echo or Whiskey or Shadow operator is changing very dynamically, and he and the team are moving very fast. Okay, so let me just lay a little foundation. So back in June, the President put out Executive Order 14307, right, Unleashing American Drone Dominance. He gave a lot of very direct guidance there to his cabinet that said, hey, we've got to build faster, we've got to integrate, we've got to enable our ability to train, and we've got to demonstrate American ingenuity. A little bit more than a month later, the Secretary of War put out a similar memo, Unleashing American Military Drone Dominance, in which he charged the Army specifically to do a number of things. Buy American, innovate at the tactical edge, get it in the hands of warfighters, and field launched effects to every single division. We're going to have UAS in every single formation. It doesn't matter if you are a maneuver formation, a sustaining formation, an intel collecting formation. They're all going to have some semblance of drones. And I think it's really interesting. You don't have to look very far, but I think I see a half a dozen different drone variants just in eyeshot or right here. If you just sort of expand that around the entire show this year, it's very evident that this is a industry, it's a capability that is moving at meteoric pace. As the Aviation Center Commander and the Branch Chief for Army Aviation, many of you know that as the Army instituted its continuous transformation, we made a lot of cuts in aviation, manned aviation, and we're doubling down in what we're doing in the unmanned space. So there's a lot of opportunity out there as we think about the direction that we're going. I mentioned those two memos. We've been given, if you heard the Secretary of the Army yesterday, if you heard the Chief today at lunch, the one thing that we have is precisely clear guidance in terms of where we envision the Army going, how we envision maneuver, fires, all of the things that make us uniquely positioned as a member of the Combined Arms team to employ this capability and whatever the future fight's going to look like. So one of my favorite quotes from, you all remember General Rick Shinseki was our he was the Chief of Staff of the Army back in the early 90s. One of the things that he said is, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less, right? And I don't know if any of you read General Ferrari's article that was in Defense News, I think yesterday or the day before, where he talked about the Army is leading the joint force in terms of our ability to think through manned versus unmanned aviation. I'm the aviation branch chief. I love manned aviation. I love to fly. But we are also embracing the unmanned aspects of it. We're not going to lead with our chin in the future fight. We're going to be out there with unmanned capabilities set in conditions, and then we will bring manned aviation into the fight. That's never going to go away. but I thought the article by General Ferrari where he talked about how the Army has embraced this change and we're moving at speed and scale, and that matters right now. One of the things that, we get extra credit. We get extra credit if we say transformation. We get extra credit if we say we're moving at speed. Like, this is one of those things that we don't have time to sit and think about a program of record that's going to be in development for 20 years and then still be in our formation 20 years after that. Like, we are, and you're going to hear this when General Phillips talk about leveraging the best of what industry has this year and then leveraging the best of what industry has next year. So it's pretty exciting. One of the things that I noticed last winter was people were really confused about what we're doing in the drone space. They really didn't understand how we intended to employ the capability, what we intended to deploy, what formations, what echelons we're going to have those capabilities. And so we just set out to write the UAS strategy for the Army. And it's already drafted, it's kind of in staffing, but I just want to talk to you about a couple of the objectives. We're going to embed it at every echelon. We're going to enable innovation at the tactical edge. You've heard that in a number of things over the last 2 days about getting capabilities in the hands of warfighters, letting them do the innovating, and then coming back and telling us as we iterate. Universal interoperability and autonomy. Gone are the days where a drone operator is actually being a pilot, where they have to be hands on the sticks all the time. Now we've got autonomous capability where we can even use large language models to tell it what to do, but we basically program it, tell it what to do, and then the algorithms in a very disciplined fashion execute it. One proponent, so the aviation branch is the proponent for the entire Army's UAS. We don't do it with an aviation lens, we just happen to have a lot of expertise and capacity. We do it for all of the Army, and that's really where the linkage with the Maneuver Center and what they're doing on the small space is critical for us. The Maneuver Center's got the small Group 1, Group 2, if you use old lexicon, and then the Aviation Center's thinking kind of larger and farther, more dynamic. And then lastly, we're institutionalizing across all the warfighting systems through, many of you here know the dot-mil PFP paradigm. So that's what we're doing. You're going to hear a couple other things here today. So the 15 X-ray. We used to have a shadow operator, so when we got rid of the 58Ds and we put shadows in aviation formations, we already had them in our BCTs. We had operators and we had maintainers. The chief tasked us a couple months ago to figure out how to take the best of both of those and combine them together. And so we're calling that the 15 X-ray. We were given notice. Within days, we launched a team out to, I don't know if General or Colonel Lamborn mentioned it, from 3 through 5. Within days, we had a PDSS. Within weeks, we were on the ground with his brigade, training his soldiers to be the future 15 X-rays. You're going to hear that from Sergeant Major Garcia. The 150 uniform, so the UAS warrant officer, we are completely white sheeting that one, clean sheet design, making them into the master integrator of all things EW, robotics, autonomy, and UAS integration. So we're really excited about where that's going to go. And then the last thing that I just want to talk about is we have developed a course at Fort Rucker, Alabama, called the UAS Advanced Lethality Course. We had everybody in from around every component of the Army, Special Operations. We had 11 series, 13, 15, 17, 18, 19 series folks there learning how to operate these things in a fashion. Not that we don't already have that capability out in our formations. You're going to hear about that here in a second. But it's standardizing what we do in terms of how we train them. And then that course is now going to be, we're getting ready to run our second iteration as soon as we get the government going again. We're ready to export that course. Think like the old air assault schools that we used to do. And so those are coming to a formation near you where we're going to make sure that we're standardizing across all the Army how we're employing this capability. So with that, I'll turn it over to my Ranger buddy, Brigadier General David Phillips, our Program Executive Officer for Aviation.
All right, thanks. Try to get on 2. Try step 2 here. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, sir, for that introduction, and thanks for setting the conditions for this discussion today. Really a great opportunity to share how dynamic this last year's been, how exciting it is, and the opportunities that we have to go forward and really accelerate these capabilities to the field. The one thing that we can look back on in this last year is we have absolutely set the conditions for this acceleration. So how we acquire things differently is going to be a common theme through what I share with you here this afternoon. And what I would offer is I'll share with you a little bit about where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going from acquiring things differently. So this past year, our teams in PO Aviation and working with the maneuver CDID and the aviation CDID absolutely laid flat the requirements, the acquisition approaches, and the technical approaches to be able to accelerate all of our UAS capabilities. And that started with our small UAS capabilities last summer and last fall that we began fielding. And those started out with the short-range reconnaissance at echelon, starting at the platoon level. That moved up to the medium-range reconnaissance with our company directive requirement, and that was at the a little bit longer range, a little bit longer payload, a little bit larger opportunities there for bringing capability to the field. Those were our first two capabilities in units in our TIC formations, and we fielded those rapidly over the last year. And we went out to those formations to get feedback and make sure we understood what was working, what wasn't working. If you heard the chief speak upstairs just over lunch, you heard him talk a lot about the things we learned. Whether it was a cold environment or in a hot environment, we learned from every unit that got to employ these capabilities. And we've incorporated that knowledge into our next steps, into our future tranches. So moving on up to the long-range reconnaissance. We also had two vendors we selected there that we recently fielded to one of our transformation and contact units. Now to the 25th Infantry Division, we sent the edge and the air environment capabilities for longer range battalion level autonomous capabilities. So those reconnaissance and autonomous capabilities that we put out to the field, again, that's the first of those Group 2 plus size aircraft that we're headed toward. And then finally we ran in the last year a competitive effort based on a brigade directive requirement to set the conditions for acquiring multiple vendors worth of capability and fielding those to our TIC formations this year. The one step we're waiting on there is funding. So with that, we also looked at our launched effects space. So we looked all across our short range, medium range, and long range launched effects on how we could accelerate. The fastest capability we put to the field just here in August was with our launched effects short range special user demonstration out at JBLM. Some great opportunities for feedback from different echelons of soldiers and capability and infantry units, multi-domain task force, and in field artillery units that we were able to incorporate into, and we just procured our next tranche of that capability, headed to, again, to our transformation and contact units here in the next several months as they go out to the National Training Center and get ready to deploy in Indo-PACOM for exercises later this spring. So with that said, we've also not taken our eye off of the Group 4 VTOL capability. We put out an RFI last fall for what industry could provide from a Group 4 sized VTOL STOL capability. We got those responses back, and we're working with our counterparts on the requirements side to shape those requirements so we'll be prepared and ready when the funding arrives in future years to be able to start that effort as well. So that's really kind of where we've been, and where we're at today is we fully have embraced new acquisition approaches, new competitive business strategies, and new technical approaches to maintain open systems in all of our future capabilities. We've also laid the foundation today for an uncrewed vehicle control software capability that's able to provide common software interface, common view, if you will, and common control to UAS across the board. We just recently fielded that with our second tranche of short-range reconnaissance. So that is a substantial amount of work just this last year to lay the foundation. We plan to grow that, and so as it interfaces with ATAC, as it grows into Next Gen C2, as we grow through our Transformation and Contact 2.0 units, we'll continue to upgrade that capability and bring on new capabilities to that uncrewed vehicle control software. So with that, where are we going? With a lot of learning and a lot of feedback from the field over these past several years, this next year, again, like I said, is going to be very dynamic and exciting, an opportunity to scale all of those efforts that I just listed out at Echelon, not just to the TIC 1.0 units, the TIC 2.0 units, and really to formations around our Army. As General Gill said, we're planning to field launched effects to every division in the Army this year, in 2026. That's foundational. The second piece of that is scaling across the SRR, MRR, LRR space, the brigade DR, to multiple units across the Army. And really where we need help there is ensuring industry and the industrial base is ready. We asked for that because we know it doesn't happen overnight. the industrial base, whether it's brushless motors, whether it's data link radios, whether it's sensors. We need quantities of those systems at a much higher level in 2026. And that demand signal for the Army is not going away anytime soon. So with that said, we expect to have bought some of our most expensive capabilities because we'd also like the affordability to go down. As our quantities go up, they should naturally come down in price point. So as we do that and we smartly scale these capabilities, bring on more autonomous capabilities, I think we'll have a great opportunity. And we've also looked at the business strategy foundationally from a marketplace approach. And so I'll close with that just to set the conditions. Our marketplace approach is set more on a free market style approach that incorporates soldier feedback and really has a common interface that, if you could imagine, looks more like a marketplace that you might see on Amazon or on Walmart Plus or any of those things, where soldiers not only can look at what capabilities are available, what capabilities are cleared on the NDAA Blue List, how can we then scale and capture soldier feedback? So not only can they order a system there, they get it delivered to the field with all the kit they need to execute their mission, and then we get their feedback, incorporating it into future tranches of capability. A foundational opportunity to scale the way we do acquisition. And so with that, I would say that Trusted Storefront will be up later this first quarter this year. We'll have it up and running at the beginning of calendar year next year. And we're really looking forward to all those vendors that are interested in becoming a part of that marketplace. It's going to be truly transformational in how we're doing business. So with that, again, I'm looking forward to this year. We've got some great additional information to share. Look forward to your questions at the end. Again, it's a great opportunity, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for our teammates up in the 101st. They keep us straight every day. So General McIntosh, Travis, over to you.
Thank you, gentlemen. The 101st Airborne Division, no stranger to innovation and experimentation over years. We are in our fourth evolution of vertical envelopment, the way we see it. The first one being gliders and parachutes. And here we are in the fourth one, where we're large scale and long range and drones. So I want to bring forward one for you to look at, and then I'll tell you the story behind it. You all know the mascot of the 101st Airborne Division Screaming Eagles is Old Abe, and this is the attritable battlefield enabler, Abe 101. The reason I'm showing this to you is because over a period of time, as we're looking to order and train and prepare our forces to fight with drones, the cost was unacceptable to do what we needed to do. That's to throw a grenade on it, put some C4 on it, teach people how to conduct an ambush, maybe take out a breach of an obstacle. And the cost was going to be on average between $2,500 on the low end and upwards of $11,000. That's each round. We cannot train at that cost. And the brigade commanders were doing exactly what they should do, sending us those requests for those resources to do that and start training right away. So then we got the Sec Wars memo that said, let's get after unleashing drone dominance. And I looked at some good warrant officers and some non-commissioned officers and said, what does this mean to you? And it was game on. And suddenly we had some young, talented allied trades and some warrant officers and NCOs that said, I can build that. And what you're looking at here is a drone that is attritable, that can drop a grenade, and it costs us $740. At scale, I'm not worried at all about training with this thing. And we are flying it. You can see it upstairs. We've got it on display in the cage. And even an old general was able to fly this thing. So for $740, we're going to continue to train with it. But what we don't have, that is the hardware. We don't have the smartware. And this is where I want to share a couple of vignettes with you. To conduct an ambush right now, as a commander, they're taking some risk by saying it takes us about 4 soldiers to do that. 1, to fly the drone itself. And if you've seen the first-person view, they're absolutely committed. They're wearing their goggles. They're leaned up against a tree. Don't talk to that soldier. Don't nudge that soldier. Don't ask them to make a radio call. And they probably aren't carrying a weapon. That means you've got someone else pulling security, someone else carrying the equipment, someone else setting up the antennas. It's a 4-to-1 ratio, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the wrong math. So where we need help, since I have the microphone and need industry to help us with, the smartware behind this, what is the threshold? You've heard a lot of people say, AI, I need autonomy. Let me give you a threshold that's easy to understand. When we can fly drones by command, not by pilot, when your drones can understand commander's intent, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the threshold for AI and autonomy to help us. I need to command drones like it's a platoon, like it's a battalion, at the appropriate echelon. ABE 101 is one of 2 systems that we've invented at Fort Campbell so that we can train on it cheaply. And if you've got something out there that can make that a smarter device, then come partner with us, and I think that's the advantage of where we are with TIC. Right up front, we are able to partner with industry and move it to the next level and keep the hard challenges to the professionals that are out there with our industry, our lab, and our acquisition experts. Thanks for your time.
Please. Hey, thanks. So I'm going to follow up on some of General McIntosh's points. So yesterday, our Secretary of the Army, said in his lead image, in all warfare's history, simple courage and grit were sufficient. Then that same image, fade in, said, not anymore. And if you listen to that speech, if you watch it on Instagram later, he said, we must change or become obsolete, in line with General Gill's quote from General Shinseki. Later he said, our enemies are ruthless and relentless. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here because you've seen the Russians and the Chinese, et cetera. I would submit that in everything we do as soldiers, everything we do as requirements writers, everything we do in integration directorates, is either generating or forfeiting options. So in just a few temporal things, in 2004, a rifle company, mine, fielded a UAS. It was a Raven. I showed back up to a battalion in 2007, also Raven. 2009, Battalion S3, Raven. 2014, Battalion Commander in USS, Raven. And last year, Raven. So I'd say that there was a forfeited option there, or at least we were behind the times a little bit. Was Raven bad against the threat that was in Iraq or Afghanistan? Like somebody who's a decent fighter but not ruthless and relentless? Maybe. But against the ruthless and relentless people that we're having as challengers now, no, it is not. What I'm saying is we didn't adapt over time, and that's what we've got to do, because those challengers have been enabled and they've caught up, and in some cases they've gotten ahead of us. So in 2004, with said Raven, company commander, me, decided to chase a person who pitched a grenade at my 2nd platoon down a road in Abu Ghraib, through a door and into a house. Probably not my best move, but I did it. And with some of the UASs we had, until General Phillips and General Gill started enabling, and the department started enabling our BCTs with those, the propensity to do the same thing as a company commander still existed, as a platoon leader, as a squad leader. And that's what I'm trying to get at. What we're striving for is not trading blood for first contact. So going back to the Secretary's speech, he asked us, all of us, to ask ourselves, am I focusing my energy and effort so that soldiers are ready to fight and win our nation's wars? In this space that we're talking about here, I spend mine ensuring that leaders in BCTs have a system of UAS, whether that's lethal or non-lethal, in order to just do that, in order to not trade blood for first contact. And we need you, like General McIntosh said, to do the same. At the risk of sounding like I'm going to immediately contradict myself, we need you to understand that there are some things that are good options and not good options. And I'm talking about generating and forfeiting again. So in the generating option space, what fits into the model of how we fight is a good option. And if you need a tutorial on that, please see me afterward. We do those at industry days at Fort Benning, and would love to talk to you about how an MBCT, an ABCT, or an SBCT fights. Not a good option, something that's too much. And I'll go back to some of General McIntosh's points. Too much, a super gimbal that can enable a team, a squad, a platoon, or a company to see into next week. I acknowledge that there are some amazing gimbals out there, and they cost a lot of money. and they can see really far. But a team leader or a squad leader does not need to see 10Ks. They can't affect it, so they don't need to see it. A company commander doesn't need to observe a corps commander's named area of interest. I'm talking about a geographic place on the ground where the enemy is doing something that 4 levels up from the company commander. They don't need that. A company commander needs to see what's inside of his or her organic weapons range, and I'm talking about 10K, or potentially that of their higher commander. A good option, I'm sorry, not a good option, helping us stay at 1-to-1. Right? Every 1-to-1 is one less rifle in a formation. Not a good option, forfeiting an option, is a bespoke controller. Right? General Phillips talked about uncrewed vehicle control. I'm very excited about that. I know that may sound wonky. I acknowledge I'm being recorded and I've got a name tag, but hey, that's what we need. We need uncrewed vehicle control so we can get soldiers off of bespoke controllers. So I can hand mine to a squad leader, to a different squad leader, or to a different soldier, and they can get after it. That's not something we have inside of a formation right now. And frankly, there's not a dedicated squad, platoon, or company level operator. So we're going to have to hand those things from one soldier to the other. Generating an option is one to many. General McIntosh banged that drum, so I'll let that one go. But UVC is how you get UASs into Next Gen C2. So again, my partners at PEO Aviation, at PMUAS, they can get you that data. I'm not the expert on it. I just know what I need. I know what that requirement is. Not a good option, single use UAS. Right? So what we need is multiple payloads. 2 or 3 would be great to go onto a UAS so that we're not going back at that 1-to-1. Right? I need one UAS, multiple UASs with multiple payloads. And I say 2 or 3 because I think I know what I need now, but I don't know that exactly what I will need tomorrow or what I'm going to need in a year or 2 years. I also know it's going to change. So, I mean, I can see a little bit in the future, but we have a perfect track record of predicting the future at 0, and we need some help with that. Finally, relatively inexpensive would be great. Relatively inexpensive, I acknowledge that term is relatively, because we need BCTs to train on those UASs as well. I know that does not equal unobtainium. I know what most of you guys can do. I mean, like General Phillips said, we've seen multiple around here. I've seen a lot of the UASs that are out there. It's not unobtainium, and we know what you can do, and we need you to bring it. So what all those good options do is enable squad leaders, platoon leaders, and company commanders to not do the same things I did, to not chase somebody down a road, into a door, into a house. That's just frankly a little foolish, especially for a company commander. Our squad leaders, our company commanders, our platoon leaders are exceptionally better than our adversaries. But what we need is them in the most unfair fight, the most lopsided fight that we can possibly put them in. Because to put them into a fair fight is frankly unacceptable. And I look forward to your questions as well.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Command Sergeant Major David Garcia. I am the 213th Battalion Command Sergeant Major, and we train the Army's UAS warfighters. We were tasked with creating the 15 X-ray MOS, utilizing the experience of the 15 Echo and 15 Whiskey MOSs in the field, and building the tactical UAS operator, which is the specialist in Group 1 through 3 assets, able to operate, maintain, employ, and fabricate for those platforms across the Army. So the team developed the 15 X-ray POI, originally 35 days of instruction and true Army transformation. We had to accelerate that a bit for the 25th ID, so we cut it down to 21 days, extending our days out of instruction. The first 7 days of training, we took 30 soldiers, 15 Echo and Whiskey mixed, and we conducted cross-training for them in the counterparts MOS. So we removed the MOS agnostic lessons that we want to carry forward to the future and trained their counterpart on what the other person already knew. That was the first 7 days. We built that foundation so that the next 14 days we could bring them back together and build the 15 X-ray POI from there, which would be additive manufacturing, tactical UAS employment, counter UAS, survivability, and gave them the green skills needed to employ those tasks. And by green skills, I mean Ranger Handbook Tactics. We did that with coalition from the Special Operations Center of Excellence who sent out RUSIC instructors to green our students out, and then they employed those in the field in a tactical environment where they did tactical flight maneuvers, and they operated in a force-on-force manner where they demonstrated all TTPs they learned. The end result of that was the 15 X-ray. I can't overstate or underscore enough the cultural shift that had to take place for these 15 series soldiers because the 15 X-ray is designed to be embedded in maneuver elements. So they need to be able to operate at the same capacity as was combat arms soldiers standing next to them. So there's some grit that was built into the course, and these soldiers were really pushed mentally and physically every single day. The end result was a 15 X-ray identifier given to these soldiers, so PDSI of Fox 1 Charlie, that tells HRC these soldiers have already completed their MOS qualification for when the 15 X-ray comes fully online. And that enables us to be able to move forward with the next chapter, right? So the only question we've got from the 25th ID since the training is how do we get more? Where can we get more 15 X-rays from? And that's the next two lines of effort that 213 is focused on. First, the 10-level IET training that we're conducting at Fort Huachuca for the time being. It's a 15-week model that takes all those echoes and whiskeys that enlisted in the Army under that MOS and trains them on the 15 X-ray MOS. And they will graduate with that PDSI starting in January. That's the first course we'll hold. And the last legacy course for 15 Echo and Whiskey will complete their RDN course in December, so no longer trained on the old POI. The next line of effort that is being implemented is that program of instruction from the MART that's then brought back to Fort Huachuca after a co-analysis. This is the fastest and best way for us to proliferate with speed this training across the force. We need to bring the experts from the installation, from the Corps, from the division to us so that we can train them to be a 15 X-ray and then a follow-on 2-week train the trainer course that gives them that training support package that they need and to facilitate that training at home station. So they'll be able to go back to home station from day one of graduation and be able to implement that. And we don't have units that are waiting across the Army based off of a fielding model where TDY, you're waiting for our instructors to come to you and it's taken a year to get there. You can get that in a more rapid fashion. So I just want to say I'm really proud of the 213th team, what they've done creating this MOS and for Aviation Center of Excellence and creating and modernizing this field. Sir, thank you.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. He truly, at normal TRADOC, formerly TRADOC pace, that would have been 3+ years. He's doing it inside of 1 year, so we're really proud of what he and his team are doing, what they're delivering. They gave it to Colonel Lamborn's team, but giving it to everybody else. All right, ma'am, go ahead.
With FDI Energy, we are developers of advanced breakthrough fuel cell technology capable of being mass-produced in the millions of units. Power source being the most important element of achieving a successful mission. In our case, we're looking at delivering the highest range, right, lowest weight, and ease of mass production. Unfortunately, fuel cells have not been really they've been under the radar. So I would like to learn a little more about the path towards employing most advanced power generation technology in the future defense-related products.
I think that topic is probably a whole nother Warriors Corner. Energy management. If my teammate, Major General Michelle Donahue, was here, she would say that is like one of her number one focuses. How do we manage energy, if you want to call it fuel cells, batteries? I know for Colonel Shaw, that's a principal concern of ours. It's one thing to have a drone with a battery, but that's only good for, 45 minutes of flying or whatever. So I can't speak with authority on kind of where we are. I know some, probably a little bit larger drones are looking at some hybrid technology, but certainly battery and energy management is probably the name of the game to make this a sustainable capability.
And feel free to come talk to us after, and we'll share with you our points of contact so you can share the information with us.
Hello, my name is Jack DeSantis. I was a foreign volunteer in the Ukrainian military. I worked as a drone pilot and then drone warfare officer from all the way from squad level to battalion level. Also worked extensively on technology there. So I wanted to ask, we talk a lot about technology, which is very important and the paths to get there. But is the Army also interested in years of frontline combat experience in terms of tactics and how those things are deployed and everything that goes with that?
I think the question, I was having a hard time hearing you. Are we interested in having folks share the technology and the training?
More about all the knowledge of first-line, frontline combat experience from squad to battalion.
Yeah, I can answer for everybody right off the bat. You know, we're all north and south. We are absolutely watching and learning. We're not quite as embedded as you probably were, but through some of our organizations that are forward in Army Europe and EUCOM, they are absolutely picking up on that. We are considering sending some folks from our aviation center, both manned and unmanned folks forward to embed with those organizations to learn. There's nothing like learning from folks who have experience. One of the things that I think about, like, it's got to be the right lessons, though, right? So one of the things, and this is going to sound a little bit egotistical, but we're watching, I just heard the Undersecretary talk about positional warfare, right? Positional warfare with drones. It's basically World War I, with machine guns and now drones, not a lot of maneuver. Certainly, as a bunch of maneuverists up here, we think about how we would maneuver. We got to deal with counterfires, some of the intel collection, all that. But yes, and we are absolutely learning through you. We're learning through other second-party folks, and then certainly Ukrainians have shared, probably on a classified level, many things that we're paying a lot of attention to. We just sent a team forward. Major General John Klein, an aviator right before he retired, went forward, came back with a wonderful lessons learned document. So thanks. Yes, we are willing to listen and learn for sure.
Hello, this is Hope Seck with Military Times. Thanks so much for being here. I wanted to pull on the thread of drones understanding commander's intent or being able to command them. I wanted to ask you to expand on that vision. How is that different from autonomy? How does it potentially conflict or interact with human in the loop limitations? Thank you.
Thank you, and I really do appreciate the question. It gives me an opportunity to tell another story. There's a vendor out here who heard us loud and clear from the 101st say that we need a drone that can understand commander's intent. And the example when they said, come check it out, I put on a Peltor headset, the normal kit we wear when we go to war, and I spoke to a team of drones by voice. And I said, team, take off, fly 200 feet. The team of 3 drones took off and held a hover at 200 feet. I can then get into my infantry squad vehicle and say, follow me. Now that's the fundamental, rudimentary, just like you would talk to Siri or Alexa at home, and it's going to do precisely what I've told it to do. But take it to the next level. Conduct reconnaissance west of my position for 2 kilometers and report. That's commander's intent. I need them to understand. And if it requires a lethal response, it will also trigger me to tell me they're in trouble. So that's the best, shortest answer I can give you by telling you a story. And that happened just a few weeks ago at Fort Campbell, me communicating by voice to drones as a team. Each of them had a call sign as well. If I needed to command that one drone, it had a call sign and I could give it a task. Just take it to the next level and make it think.
Okay, I think we're out of time. I want to thank everybody for coming. Obviously, this space is on a meteoric path. If you come next year, we're going to be talking about drones again, and there's probably going to be a whole bunch of different things out here. Appreciate everybody's time. Have a great day.
Armed fire. American drone dominance.